Welcome to Reshair on ESPN 730. For the next hour, your host, Chris Reshaar, will bring fresh air to your financial needs. Excite, educate, and empower you to make sound financial decisions. Chris is a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with Movement Mortgage, equal housing lender, originator license number 117266. Now, here's your host, Chris Reshaar.
Welcome to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshaar, Senior Loan Officer with Movement Mortgage. Movement Mortgage is an equal housing lender, NMLS license number 117266. And if you're just listening to our intro, the goal of the show is to excite, educate, and empower Charlotte teens to make sound financial decisions. And really that I help, or at least try to help our Charlotte listeners to achieve that goal by bringing topics that are hot in our real estate market, bringing in expert contributors that are on the show each and every week that bring value and great information, and also bring in local area guests like realtors, like insurance companies, like all kinds of different people, you name it, to help add to the good material that we have that we bring each and every week to Reshair Radio. So glad to be back for another week. Hopefully you will gain some information and gain some knowledge today. And I'm honestly I'm really like sort of bursting at the seams here and excited about our themes that we've got rolling on today. But before we sort of jump into our theme, I just kind of want to talk about Mortgage Matters. This is my Mortgage Matters segment where sometimes I take a minute or two and just talk about what's kind of going on in the mortgage world. Yes, I'm a mortgage loan officer at Movement Mortgage. I know mortgage means death contract. I don't know if people know that. Mortgage means death contract. I sign people up for death contracts for a living, and I get paid to do it. Kind of crazy. But I just wanted to point out that as we've sort of rolled into the new year, not long after the election, I should say, maybe right after the election, we saw interest rates rise, and they started to rise at a pretty fast pace. And I want to bring that topic up. I'm not allowed to talk about specific rates. I can't quote somebody over the air. I want to make sure I keep my license so I can continue to pay my bills. But we are seeing where rates have moved up a good 3/4 of a point, half a point, depending on the program since the election. And I bring that up is because we have listeners out there that have thought about buying a house. We also know that the real estate market's been pretty hot. Home prices have started to go up. And so if you've been sitting on the fence and you're listening to the show, I definitely would encourage you to think about buying sooner than later, only because I really feel like things are only getting more expensive to buy, and in some cases more expensive to borrow on that mortgage loan. So the rates have trimmed down a little bit and sort of settled out. We're seeing a lot of the rates in that 4% range, whereas we had seen them in the 3% range. That is not a direct quote to a customer, but we've seen them come up a little bit. And so just put that out there, that it is just getting more expensive to buy, more expensive to borrow. And I want our buyers to know that. So if you have any questions about just where the market is, home value wise or interest rate wise, you can call anytime during today's show, or just text me during the show and say, hey, Chris, I've got a question on, or let's chat this week. And I will circle back with you either today during the show. If it's a text message, if it's a phone call, we'll chat after the show. But nonetheless, we can connect. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. Hopefully we'll connect with you. So let's jump into introducing our guest and expert contributor here today. First on our panel today, we have Karen Minter from Keller Williams South Park. Karen, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Great to have you here today.
Thank you.
So I know that what's important for us to share to our listeners is that you're licensed in North Carolina and also South Carolina, since Charlotte's kind of a border town, right?
Right.
Absolutely. And you have just under 2 years experience working as a realtor, but you have lots of other experience before that. So what I'd like to do is just to have our listeners get a flavor for who you are and how you operate. Can you tell us, how did you get started in real estate?
Okay, sure. I moved here about 3 years ago with my family.
Another transplant,
yes.
folks. Another transplant.
Shocker.
From Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, cool.
Go Pirates. We moved here, and I was a stay-at-home mom
Okay.
when
Cool.
we moved. Prior to that, I was a juvenile probation officer in the city of Pittsburgh. And prior to that, I was a child caseworker in Ohio.
So those are all great foundations for being a great realtor, right?
That is right. So when I moved down here and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do once my daughter went to school.
When you grew up,
yes,
okay.
I decided I didn't necessarily want to go back into the criminal justice / social service field. So, but I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. So I
Sure.
took a walk around my neighborhood and I came home and decided, hey, I think I'll sell houses.
Cool. She walked it out and found out you
Yes.
wanted to be a realtor your next career. That's cool.
Right. And then within probably 6 months, I had my license. Or 6 weeks, I had my license.
6 weeks?
6 weeks, yes. Oh,
Wow.
yes. It was quick. Yeah.
Well,
Once
that
I
obviously,
decide,
once
I
you make
do
a
it.
decision on something, you stick to it.
That is right.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So what do you like most about being a realtor today, now that you've sort of embarked on this journey?
Well, when I worked as a probation officer and a child caseworker, I helped people during the worst times of their lives.
Okay.
So I decided I want to help people at the most exciting, the best times of their lives.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's what kind of drove me in.
So it was either that or wedding planner, right?
Right.
That's great. All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So, and then do you have like an area of focus, or, what do you call your niche if you have one? I know realtors are really multifaceted and they do all kinds of things to help people, but what are some of the things you've liked so far?
Well, I've worked with a lot of buyers so far. But one of the things that I really like is the new construction. I live in Waxhaw, Weddington area.
Okay. Where there's
And,
still land available.
Yes. And there's a lot of new construction. So I like to take my daughters. I have a 6-year-old and 11-year-old. We
Oh,
go to
cool.
model homes through the summer.
That's great.
And they just love to go through the model homes and check them out. So I get to see the inventory, meet the agents, and kind of take them out and groom them to become realtors when they graduate from
That's
high
cool.
school.
When my wife and I first moved to Charlotte, my in-laws had a relatively large home and they had kind of like a basement apartment, and we said, well, we'll just stay with you for the first 6 months and then we'll see if we can. We had already bought our first home in the Philadelphia area, ironically, and moved here and said, we'll stay for about 6 months, and 6 months turned into 3 years. But like on the weekends, my wife would say, well, let's go to this new construction neighborhood and I want to go see the model home. And after 3 years of living with them and driving this entire city, and almost every subdivision that there is in every builder, I can like literally go into every neighborhood and go, oh, that's the Colville plan from Ryan Holmes, but it's fun, right? It's fun to kind of get out and see. My wife is very much like a decorator, and she gets inspired by seeing model
Lots of
homes.
ideas,
And so, I get that. That's really cool that you do that with your daughter. So very good. I think we've got a good feel for, who you are and how all this is going to be put together. We're going to jump into our topic a little bit later. I want to make sure we have time to introduce our expert contributor, Shelley Walker. But before I do, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Reshair Radio. I am your show host, licensed loan officer, and we have a show each and every week. I just want to make sure you know who we are if you're just tuning in, and we want you to stay focused on what we've got to share today. Shelley, let's have you jump in for a minute here. And Shelley, you are the owner and operator of Ballantyne Staging and Design. You are an expert contributor, as I always call it, a repeat offender. Shelley is on the show each and every month. She comes back and brings great, pertinent information for our listeners. But welcome back.
Thanks, Chris. Happy Sunday morning.
Happy Sunday morning. And our guests probably been hearing you giggling in the background as we've been rolling out
What
this
do you mean,
morning.
Chris?
So as an expert contributor, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what you do day to day in your business?
Absolutely, Chris. We at Ballantyne Staging and Design are fully dedicated to helping individuals prepare their homes for sale. And the goal really is top dollar and selling that home as fast as possible. And it applies both to seller and buyer's market.
Absolutely. So if you're selling your home, Shelley, let's kind of break that down a little bit. What are some of just basic things that you do to help somebody get their home prepared to sell?
Absolutely. We'll help them with an occupied home, or even if the home has become vacant, and everything from, we have a full warehouse of furniture and accessories that we'll bring in to make sure that that home is intriguing and gives a stellar first impression, draws buyers in from the internet pictures with on-trend high-end furniture and accessories.
Cool. So you're making it look like HGTV.
Like those model homes that you
That's
and your
right.
wife know so well.
Well, we used to. Those were back in the days. I don't have so much time anymore to do that kind of stuff, but it sounds like Karen's picking it up for
Yes.
me. So is there anything else before we sort of roll into our topic, Shelley, that you'd like to share with our listeners here this morning?
Yeah, as we talk about the topic, just to tie them together, Chris, I think it's really important. You know, a lot of realtor colleagues have shared with me in a seller's market, they struggle sometimes with getting the potential sellers to actually stage their property. They hear that their neighbor's home just sold in 2 days, right, Karen?
Right.
And they're saying, we don't need to do anything. Let's just get it on the market as soon as possible. So I'm here today to testify. There's data behind this to support that even in a seller's market, when homes sell very quickly, staging can have a tremendous impact, not only increasing that price, but producing multiple offer situations.
Right. And that really just segues us right into our topic, which what I might do is just maybe we'll share what the topic is. And we've only got about a minute or so here before I have to take a quick break. So Karen and I were sort of preparing for the show, and we both agreed that really, as you segued here for us, Shelley, that right now we wanted to share with our listeners just strategies on how to work a multiple bid situation and how to win. And what that basically means is we're seeing in the marketplace that there are many, many buyers and bids on very, very few homes for sale.
Right.
And so while a seller may be able to sell their home quickly, the challenge for the buyer is, how do you win the bid if you're competing with a bunch of other offers, right? And even in the seller's case, sometimes the psychology behind how do you pick the offer, right? How do you,
Right.
if you have 6 or 8 bids, how do we pick? Well, they're all above asking price, so there's a lot of components that we're going to go through. And this is the reason I was so excited about doing today's show, is that we're just seeing this consistently across the board. And I think it's so valuable to be talking about this and really sharing this. We've got 8 strategies on how to win a multiple bid situation that we're going to go through. So pretty cool stuff. So when we get back, we'll break out like basically what the supply and demand situation is, and then go into our 8 components of working a multiple bid situation. So again, you're listening to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, Chris Reshatar here from Reshair Radio with Movement Mortgage. Are you still sitting on a high interest rate mortgage loan? Are you thinking about consolidating, paying off some of those credit card debts, or maybe doing some home improvement? Now's the time to call, because interest rates are still at a 40-year low. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. I can also be found at themortgagegenius.com. Movement Mortgage is an equal housing lender and MLS license number 117266.
When choosing an insurance agency, you want a company you can trust. We are an independent insurance agency that can protect your personal assets, including your home, your business assets, as well as health and insurance needs. A true one-stop solution provider. We do not work for an insurance company. We work for you. As an independent insurance agency, our duty is to our clients' best interests. It is our responsibility to provide you the best service and the best coverage at the best possible price. You will have the added benefit of working with agents who understand your needs. After visiting our website, we will schedule an exploratory appointment to discuss your specific needs. Please visit our website at www.movementinsurance.com. That's www.movementinsurance.com.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. If this is your first time tuning in, the goal of the show is to excite Charlotteans to make good financial decisions. And boy, what a topic we have this morning for our listeners. As you know, with me being a licensed loan officer, we bring in real estate experts, and we've got several here in the studio live this morning with us. And Karen Minter from Keller Williams, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And Shelley Walker from Ballantyne Staging and Design. She's with us here as well.
Thank you.
So we're really just talking about working a multiple bid situation and how to win. And if you're listening, and Karen, you're going to have to help me out here just a little bit. From what I know, it's what they call a seller's market, meaning that the sellers have the upper hand. There's, correct me if I'm wrong, there's not as much homes on the market as we have buyers.
Right.
Am I
Not a
saying
lot
that
of
right?
inventory. That
Not
is
a lot
right.
of inventory.
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of a lot of buyers, there's demand, and fewer sellers, lack of supply,
Right.
equals sellers get the upper hand, equals multiple bids trying, lots of people trying to buy one property. Anything else you want to share there, Karen, with us in terms of what's going on in our market?
No, you pretty much
I
set
got
up.
it?
Yes.
Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Right.
I'm not
Yes.
the licensed realtor here, so I just want to make sure that, that we're getting this information out right. So bottom line is we're all seeing here on the panel, probably more than I've ever seen in my career, many, many, many bidders on one property. So if you think the house is beautiful and Shelley's done a great job at staging it, guess what? A lot of other people think it's beautiful too. And there's going to be a lot of offers. So, all right. So we're going to really just jump into sort of the 8 components of maybe winning that bid in a multiple bid situation. And the first component is you need to be working with what I call a professional full-time realtor. What do you say about
Right.
that, Karen?
Yes, that's very important. You want someone who's going to be working full time as a realtor, because you need someone who knows the market, knows the inventory, can schedule things, can get you out there to see that house whenever it comes on the market. You can get to it.
You can get on it right away. And
Right.
I sometimes I complain because I work a lot of hours, but at least I know when Saturday and Sunday rolls around that I can be off a little bit. Like if I need to work, I don't get as many phone calls. A realtor, there is no day of the week where
is
they're
right.
not working. So if you're thinking about being a realtor, just remember you work 7 days a week, pretty much every week of the year. It's a lot.
Yes, and Saturdays and Sundays are big days.
Are
So-
the busy days.
Yes,
Right.
you'll be out all day.
Right, exactly. And so I say that because a full-time realtor is somebody that's really working 7 days a week.
7 days a week.
They don't
yes.
take weekends off. Realtors don't take weekends off, okay?
Right.
Unless they're dead.
Right.
So number one is working with a professional realtor. You really should be working with someone that does it full-time, because if they're not ready to put in offers and show you homes at the drop of a dime on a Saturday morning, a Friday night, whatever it might be, you're going to lose out.
Or even during a lunch break.
Even
Which
during
is
a
why
lunch
it's
break.
important to have a full-time realtor, not someone who's working a full-time job and doing it on the side,
Right,
because
'cause-
they need to be available. They need to know what the market is.
Right.
So yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Full-time.
So I think we hit that one pretty good. Why don't you read number 2 off in terms of working a multiple bid situation and how to win? What's number 2, Karen?
Well, you need to get fully pre-approved with a local reputable lender.
Pre-approved.
Chris, do you know any?
I think I do know a local reputable lender. Hopefully he's right here in the studio with us. But let me just talk about that, because I think this is where, because most of my business comes from realtors. I think last year 90 plus realtors sent me closed transactions. That was a lot of realtors I was working with. I talk with realtors every single day, and I'm still hearing, and I can't believe it, they're coming to me saying, wow, I have 6 offers on this listing, and still 4 of them, they're working with lenders. They're not pre-approved. They're only pre-qualified. And I had one come to me recently and said, I can't understand why a customer today wouldn't go through underwriting, be fully approved up front before putting an offer in, because he said,
Yes.
I'm not going to look at those other 4 offers. It doesn't matter what the price is. If they're not through underwriting, we're not even going to consider those bids. Now, those of you that are driving around town that are only pre-qualified, we can help you with that, right?
Right.
But even if you're working with another lender, that's absolutely fine. Doesn't have to be with Team Reshair Movement Mortgage. But it's so powerful today to not just, you shouldn't be driving and shopping and putting offers in on a home if somebody has only taken your information over the phone and you haven't provided your documentation and it hasn't been reviewed by a working employed underwriter at whatever company you're working with. And the reason that's so important is your pay stubs may say one thing, your tax returns may say another.
Mm-hmm.
Your 1099s may say one thing, your tax returns may say another. We don't really know. I always use the example of, she looks really cute from the other side of the dark dance floor, right? That's pre-qualified. We got your information on the phone from a distance. We don't really know until you're dancing for the first time. That at that point you're doing the real qualification, right?
Right.
You're getting to know does she look like what you thought she looks like, and really diving in. We want to see your documentation and evaluate. Do you actually make the number of overtime hours and income that we thought you did, that we used when we qualified you over the phone or over on an online application? So Number two really is just when you're winning that multiple bid situation, you need to go in with a fully pre-approved loan, which also can mean quickness, right?
Right.
So when the seller is looking at that bid, they see the customer's been approved. Well, gosh, we know that they can probably close quickly, of course, if that's important to them. Very good.
Yes, very important.
All right. So the next one, number three, this is kind of backwards here, but shoot, set, ready, okay? Instead of, let me set it up and be ready and then pull the trigger. We don't have that luxury right now today. And what I mean by that is buyers need to be flexible to literally drop everything, both not only to see a potential property when it comes on the market, but also to be writing the offer. Karen, what are your thoughts on this?
That's exactly right. Now, when you're working with that full-time realtor, somebody that you've built a relationship with, that you trust, that you're confident, they've researched the market, they know what's going on with that house before you even go into the house. So you should feel confident in walking into that house, and if you love that house, that might be the one.
That's right.
You need to go ahead and make that offer.
Right. And what I've heard from agents saying, it surprises me when I say, hey, that perfect house that meets your criteria that I have found for you. And then the buyer says, well, I'm busy right now, but how about next Tuesday, my husband and I can come by. What is that? Is that going to work?
No, that's not going to work.
Okay. So literally you find a house this Friday at lunchtime and your agent calls, you need to scoot on by your office manager's office and say, you know what, I need to take a personal 2-hour emergency time because the perfect house came on the market. And if we don't go see it, then it's going to be gone.
Yes.
And so hopefully our listeners are getting a perspective on this, that you have to be. And then what about the offer part? Can they sleep on the offer?
No, there's no sleeping on the offers right now.
Okay.
If you walk into the house and you feel like this is the house, it doesn't matter if you see 5, 10 more houses, you're probably going to go back to that first house that you had that feeling, and it's going to be gone at that point. So if you have that feeling when you walk in the door, that's the one. You should be ready to write that offer.
At the kitchen counter. At the kitchen counter at the house that you want to buy.
Right.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I appreciate you helping our listeners understand this, Karen, because sometimes it's difficult to communicate to particularly the first-time buyers that we're working with if they've never bought a home before. They're not used to maybe being pressured into making these quick decisions, right? Well, let me talk with my mom or my dad, or I have to talk with my financial planner, and those days are gone, at least for now. So you have to be prepared to pull the trigger. Again, that's the motto of shoot, ready, set, right? You got to be ready to go. So let's sort of jump back in now. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, and we're talking about how to win a multiple bid situation today for buyers that are trying to purchase a home. Let's talk about components of the contract. And this is like assuming that you've now sort of identified the house that you want to put an offer on. Karen is taking you to the property. You've dropped everything during your lunch appointment to go see it. And you've decided, okay, here it is. There are components of the contract that the seller, when they receive that contract, are going to consider. And it's not always price that they're going to be looking at, right?
Not always, no.
It's not always price. Price is important.
Very important.
So why don't we start with price, and then we'll have to be sensitive to time here before our next break. So number one component on the contract, you put that offer into that seller. How do you determine what's a competitive price, Karen, in our market with it crazy like this?
Well, your agent is going to go through the comps in the neighborhood and figure out what would be the best starting price and give you that information.
Does the agent always say what the offer has to be, or does the buyer help make that decision?
Well, the buyer makes a decision.
Okay.
The agent is pretty much an advisor, letting you know this is what this house is worth.
Or likely to sell for.
And this would be your starting point. Now, the buyer at that point can take that and say, okay, let me start under $5,000. Take $5,000 off of it and we'll start that. Now, in this situation with multiple offers, normally you're going to be starting at list or above list.
Right.
And it just depends on how.
And I appreciate you really breaking it down for the listener, because if we know that there are multiple people bidding for that property, coming in and lowballing the price is really just a waste of everybody's time.
Exactly.
It's a waste of everybody's time. So, so the real trick is working with your agent and determining what price above, in most cases, above,
Right.
not even at,
Yes.
is likely going to do the trick.
You don't want to go too far above because the house still needs to appraise.
Right.
But you want to have a good starting point that makes the offer attractive to the sellers, and they're going to open it up and read the rest of it.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've got a couple of more examples to maybe share in this case, but we've got to take a quick break here. So please stay tuned. We're talking about how to win in a multiple bid situation. And our market is hot right now. If you're thinking about buying a home this spring, this information is critical to you winning the bid on a home. So stay tuned to Reshair Radio. We'll be right back.
Sports fans know that the key to winning the big game is going in prepared. Right now, houses are selling fast. So if you're in the market for a new home purchase, don't just be prepared, be Movement Mortgage prepared. Charlotte's leading mortgage lender, Chris Reshair at Movement Mortgage will tee you up with a free, fully underwritten, upfront pre-approval. Shop for the home of your dreams, already backed by an upfront pre-approval at Movement Mortgage. Call Chris today at 704-277-4463 or find Chris at www.themortgagegenius.com. Go into the game prepared with Chris Reshair of Movement Mortgage.
When choosing an insurance agency, you want a company you can trust. We are an independent insurance agency that can protect your personal assets, including your home, your business assets, as well as health and insurance needs. A true one-stop solution provider. We do not work for an insurance company. We work for you. As an independent insurance agency, our duty is to our clients' best interests. It is our responsibility to provide you the best service and the best coverage at the best possible price. You will have the added benefit of working with agents who understand your needs. After visiting our website, we will schedule an exploratory appointment to discuss your specific needs. Please visit our website at www.movementinsurance.com. That's www.movementinsurance.com.
Welcome to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshair, and we are back for another segment here. If you're just tuning in for the very first time to Reshair Radio, the goal of our show is to excite and empower Charlotte teens to make sound financial decisions. And today we have a super awesome topic. I've been excited all week to bring this out to our listeners. And we're really talking about how to win in a multiple bid situation if you're looking to put an offer in on a home and buying your first home or fifth home or 10th home. It doesn't really matter. The marketplace in most areas, not in all, but in most areas, we're hearing from the realtor community that people are having to bid and fight just to get the property. So we were talking with Karen Minter here from Keller Williams, South Park. And Karen, we had already gotten down to step number 4, and we were talking about really the components of the offer to purchase. And number 1 on the offer to purchase in terms of what we were talking about here, even though we're on step number 4, is really the price. And as you were saying right before the break, that that in most cases today, if you know there's going to be many bidders on the property, you're not asking below price. You're not going to put an offer in below the sales price. In fact, in many cases, you're not going to put an offer in at the sales price. The question is, how much over can we go? Right. And you know, I can only speak from experience over the last 3 or 4 weeks that I saw one house that was $120,000 that the bid was one at $138,000. I saw another one at $180,000. The bid was one at $190,000. We're not talking about $2,000 over in some cases. In some cases, it's $10,000 or $15,000 more than the price, and that begs the question of: is it going to appraise? Right? Is the appraiser that then gets a copy of that offer to purchase contract? Are there going to be sales in that community to support that above asking price? So that's really tricky today, and we are seeing in some cases where homes don't appraise. And in which case, we then have to figure out, well, does the seller come down in the price when they know that they have 6 other backup offers? Do you have to come up and out of your pocket the additional money if the lender won't lend you money above what it's going to appraise for? So there's those little quandaries that are out there. So have you seen any examples recently of multiple bids that you've been working?
Yes, I have. No, the one that I worked, not the other weekend, we went 2,000 over. But there was other aspects of our contract that made it stronger.
Okay. And now's
Yes.
maybe a perfect time to segue into that. So number 5 component of how to win the bid really is the due diligence and earnest money contributions, that they
Right.
probably need to be pretty aggressive. If you're only going to go a little bit above the price, then what you're contributing up front probably needs to be aggressive. So first of all, Karen, why don't you explain to our listener what the due diligence fee or check is and what the earnest money fee is?
Sure. A due diligence fee is a check that is made out directly to the sellers.
Okay.
So the buyer is writing that check out right to the sellers.
So if I'm selling my house, the buyer sends me a check.
Send you a check in
Okay.
the mail.
Great.
And you get to cash that check
All right.
as soon as you get it. And you get to
Actually,
keep
hopefully
that.
the seller cashes the check right away.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, so that's my money. No matter what happens in
No
the
matter what
transaction, if
happens.
I'm the seller, that due diligence check is mine for good.
Right.
Perfect.
Then there's the earnest money. And the
Okay.
earnest money is put into a trust account, and that gives the buyer the ability to do inspections on the property to make sure they want to continue on with the transaction.
Okay, and it's kind of like a timeline that it's not just inspections, but making sure you can get your loan approved,
Right.
and that the home is appraising for
Appraising.
what you're willing to pay for the
Yes.
house,
Mhm.
right?
Surveys.
Anything that
any
could
type
sort
of
of help
inspections.
you make or break that decision.
Right.
You have a sort of a trial period.
Yes.
Once you've hit that date, then that earnest money is also kept by the seller should you change your mind after that deadline.
Right. Should you change your mind, then the seller gets to keep that money. Now,
Good
if
for
you-
me.
Yeah. If you decide you want to walk away as a buyer before that period is over, then you get your
Then that earnest money
back.
comes back.
Yes.
Okay. And the reason we bring that up is first we want to make sure that you understand what it is. So when I say in the intro here, step number 5 is making sure those contributions are aggressive. What are you seeing in that category?
Well, depending on the price of the house, you could do a due diligence of, instead of $250,000 for a
200 oh,
or $250.
yeah, that's a big
for-
due diligence fee, Karen. I'd like to take that and cash it right away.
And to Nordstrom.
You're right. So instead of $250 for, say, a house that's $150,000, say it's $500 or $750.
Okay, so you're going to notch that number up.
Yes.
To show
you
that-
could, yes.
show the seller
if
you're
serious
serious.
about that house and you really want that house, then because you get that money, it's credited at closing to you. It's just, you're not just giving it to the sellers. You are, as a buyer, you're getting it back credited to you.
Right.
at-
So it's
at
still your
closing.
money if you buy the
Yes.
house, but if
Right.
you don't, the seller's got that money no matter what.
Right. And that's why it's also important to be pre-approved just
That's
in
right.
case your
Nice.
funding
Cha-ching. I
doesn't-
like Karen here.
your funding doesn't come through. Because
Right.
if everything goes the way you expect, you're going to close on that house. So why not give it a little bit of
Show
extra?
them you're serious.
Yes.
And I just had one this week on a $240,000 house come in, due diligence fee come in at $3,000. So we're seeing some
Yeah.
big numbers come
Wow.
across the board where I'm used to seeing like $500 or something like
Yeah.
that on a house that size.
Yeah.
So and then you can do the same thing for the earnest
Yeah,
money.
if you're not comfortable sending the seller's check of that much, you can do more for the earnest money. Instead of $1,000, send $2,500.
Right.
something
But you
like
can
that.
get that money back.
But again, it's
before
yes.
that due diligence
Right.
deadline. Okay, so bottom line is be aggressive with your contributions in earnest money and due diligence. All right, number 6, timing. We've just got a few more to go through in terms of timing. Let's talk about, we mentioned it briefly, but you had mentioned earlier about what the seller's needs are. Why don't you sort of bring that back up and we'll go from there.
Right. So if you are in a multiple offer situation, it's good to contact the seller's agent.
Okay.
They can't give you what other offers are, but they might be able to give you some indication of what the seller needs.
Right, because
Meaning-
the realtor can't
Yes.
say, well, here was the highest offer we have, just go above this. They're not allowed to do that.
Right.
But they can say, my seller would like to close as fast as possible.
Yes.
So we're going to look at and we're going to pay attention to how quickly your client can close.
Right. Or vice versa, if they're building a house and they need 60 days and your buyer can wait 60 days to close, then possibly you could do a longer close.
Right, because you might have a buyer say, but I've got to be out of my apartment by the end of the month. And then you say, well, that's why they make extended stays. Right?
Right.
We're going to make our bid 60 days
Yes.
in order for you to get this house. So you can see timing becomes really important. And speaking from a lender perspective, you had said earlier, if you've gone through the process of being pre-approved and the seller wants to move quickly, we sometimes, I'm not kidding you, we sometimes do a 10-day close or a 14-day close. And if that means you get the house, then guess what? You got the house over 7 or 8 or 10 or 15 other people. So it sounds really crazy. We're talking, this is kind of minutia we don't really care about in a normal marketplace because it all just naturally works out. We're not focused on it. We're focused on every little component of this offer in our current marketplace. So, all right. Number 7, seller paid closing costs.
Right.
So what do you say about seller paid closing costs, Karen?
If you don't need it, don't ask for it in a multiple offer situation because you're basically going into that seller's pocket and taking that money from them. So if you are asking for closing costs and another offer is not, they're going to go with the other offer because they don't want to have to come out their pocket.
Yeah, it's kind of bad news for the first-time buyer, in my opinion. And what it really means is that if you were expecting to qualify for a low down payment or a no money down option and you haven't also saved any money for any closing costs, you might not be ready to buy a home today. You might have to take your tax return check and beef it up with a few more $1,000s of your own money and circle back in 2 or 3 months when you've got some money saved. And I'm finding that because you'd be surprised, people come in today and they say, well, I have $800 and we've gotten them in and out of a home with $800 in their account. Mm-hmm. Well, if you can't count on the seller paying your closing costs, well, guess what? First-time buyers might need to be a little bit more prepared today than they had been in the past. So this is just a brief first-time buyer plug here. You've heard me talk on previous shows that the state of North Carolina, particularly in Cabarrus and Mecklenburg counties, has a special program right now. It's called the Home Advantage $15,000, and it's down payment assistance and closing cost assistance from the state of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So if you are a first-time buyer, there is one program that will cover both your down payment and closing costs, pretty much all of it or most of it with that $15,000. That's one of the few out there that kind of cover both sides, down and closing costs, and those funds are still available. It's a limited time only program. So if you know anyone that's a first-time buyer that wants to purchase in Mecklenburg or Cabarrus County, there are income limits and credit score limits, etc. But $15,000 from the state to help you buy a home or help someone you know buy a home is very, very awesome. And
it's huge.
I've got so many buyers on this program right now. I'm kind of spinning in my head, but it's great. It's so fun to be able to really help make a dent in those first-time buyers, and it can help in that multiple bid situation because they've got the money they need to cover down payment and closing. So.
Right. Yes.
Great program. So buyers wanted. I like that Volkswagen commercial. Drivers wanted. I just converted to buyers wanted. So if you're listening to the show and you are listening to anything that's of interest to you, you can give us a quick phone call or shoot a text message over to Chris, that's me, and say, I need that first-time buyer $15,000 program to help me buy a home, or I need Karen to help me negotiate my offer. I need a professional full-time realtor. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. All right, last component, or step number 8, is the type of financing. Karen, what do you mean by the type of financing? The seller may pay attention to the kind of financing the buyer is getting, really?
Really? Well, the conventional financing might be more attractive to a seller than a VA or an FHA loan.
All right. Well, let me tell you why. At least in the realtor community, sometimes an FHA loan or a VA loan, which are great programs, the appraisal process can be a little bit more in-depth, and they expect the property to be in maybe a little bit better condition than maybe a conventional loan. The conventional loan appraisal is a little bit more lenient. So if they have to decide between offers, they may lean toward a conventional loan, knowing that there'll be less repair issues perhaps on the appraisal. Things like peeling paint or loose hand railing, things like that will slow down the loan process on an FHA or VA loan, but might not on a conventional. These are just general rules. We are not underwriters for appraisals and so forth, but just to give you a general idea. So you're right. The type of financing could impact the way somebody is going to consider that bid. So boy, we've talked about a lot of really valuable things, and that's why working with a professional realtor can really make a difference, a big difference as to whether or not you're going to maximize your ability to win the bid on that particular sale or house that you'd like to buy. So Very good. We're going to take a quick break and come back with Shelley Walker with Ballantyne Staging and Design. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sports fans know that the key to winning the big game is going in prepared. Right now, houses are selling fast. So if you're in the market for a new home purchase, don't just be prepared, be Movement Mortgage prepared. Charlotte's leading mortgage lender, Chris Reshair at Movement Mortgage will tee you up with a free, fully underwritten upfront pre-approval. Call Chris today at 704-277-4463. Go into the game prepared with Chris Reshair of Movement Mortgage.
This is Chris Reshair, your host of Reshair Radio. As a mortgage professional, we interact with several industry-related professionals, and we see the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I have a choice to select a closing attorney either to purchase or do a refinance, I choose John Ringer with Hutchins Law Firm. He is a legal professional and he covers commercial and residential transactions. More than just a closing attorney, John wants to be your attorney for life. He can provide you insights you need to make accurate and informed legal decisions. As a Charlotte native, John has witnessed the tremendous growth and development of our city and region. As a part of Hutchins Law Firm with more than a quarter century of experience and 400 years of collective combined legal experience, they have what you're looking for. They have offices in Charlotte, Fayetteville, Wilmington, and Columbia, South Carolina. Please give John a call if you need an attorney, the right attorney, at 980-275-9810. That's 980-275-9810. Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshair, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. And if you have not been listening, we have just wrapped up going through 8 critical steps to how to win in a multiple bid situation with Karen Minter at Keller Williams South Park. Awesome information. If you need any help in that area, you're going to need to contact me and we'll get you connected with these great resources here that are in the studio. But I'd like to officially bring Shelley Walker back into the conversation. And we want to have kind of a discussion, Shelley, around kind of do-it-yourself projects, cheap and easy, how to update your home, sort of maybe a quicker version, knowing that maybe sellers don't have to do quite as much as they used to in the past because of the housing market is hot, particularly in that, under $300,000-$400,000 price point. It's not always true in the higher price point. But what are some stats and what are you kind of seeing from a staging perspective? And now that we're going to focus a little more on selling the home.
Yes, Chris. Every seller we know wants 2 things. They want to sell that home very quickly, which is going to happen in the seller's market, but they also want as much money as possible.
Oh, money. That money speaks.
Money.
Right.
And they don't, staging can really have an impact because you don't want to leave any money on the table.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So even if you've lived in that home a year, and even in a seller's market, these dirt cheap and very quick tips we're going to share with you today can make a huge impact in just making your home shine and moving into those multiple offer situations.
Well, and I found, at least from my experience today, Shelley, that we live pretty busy lives, okay? We have a lot of families that husband and wife both work. We've got kids in extracurriculars. We've got church activities. We've got sporting events. We've got all kinds of things. And so sometimes it's hard to figure out where to find the time, even if you've only been in a home for a year or two, to sort of get your home prepared and be ready. I mean, that's a real challenge today.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Time is of the essence. So let's share a couple tips, Chris, of things that you can do yourself. Really don't even need someone else there with you for almost no money.
All right. Well, number one, I think we have here is really, and we all know this, it's the kitchen and the bathrooms that really shine in terms of making that home be appealing and in terms of getting buyers. You got to have those areas of the home shine, right?
You bet. The high impact rooms, we call those, the ones that really will
Yeah,
make
you said
a
it way better
difference.
than me. I was fumbling around.
No
High
way.
impact rooms. That's what I should have said, folks. Okay.
No, we're all on the same page. We're on the same seller side, right? Same
Right.
seller side. So one quick tip, update cabinets, drawer knobs, and pulls. Everyone knows, right, Karen, stainless steel
Yes.
is what it's all about. But you may or may not have stainless steel appliances, but very inexpensively, one-person job and a screwdriver, you can literally update those in the kitchens and in the bathrooms to have tremendous impact.
Cool. That's a simple tip and pretty relatively expensive. A few $100s and you're done.
Few $100s, usually under an hour. And it's amazing today when you look at Home Depot and Lowe's, Walmart even carries them at Target. You can get some beautiful pulls. I say my go-to metal is brushed nickel. It's the Switzerland of design, if you will. It goes with everything. It gives that a little bit of bling, right? That shiny
But not
appeal,
too much. Yeah.
But not too much, not too much. And you can take that even one step further. Something very few sellers think about, but same thing in your master bath is your shower heads. Right?
Yes.
They can look dated and grungy and old, and sometimes they're very difficult to clean. So that's another thing that you can switch out at literally under $100 usually from one of
and make it kind of look like you're at the spa now, right? Because you
Now
want them to
you're
kind of
going
go
to
like
the
those
spa.
big square ones where it trickles down and you're like, wow, I'm on
Exactly.
vacation in my bathroom.
The rain heads, exactly. And it sounds funny, guys, but it really is a perception game. If someone sees those updates, they get the perception then that that home has been kept up to date throughout the life of that home. And that makes a big difference, again, in a multiple offer situation. So
Cool. Any other tips?
let's talk caulk for a minute. So
Caulk.
Yeah, fun to say, right?
Can you say that like a
Caulk.
Southern woman?
Yeah, it sounds a little different. But especially around the kitchen sink or your bathroom tile, it can get very grungy. And it's amazing what a fresh coat of white, clean caulk can go a long way, just like a fresh coat of paint, right?
Okay.
Very inexpensive, a one-person job again.
And you don't have to have a license to carry a caulk gun.
You do not even in the beautiful state of North Carolina. So one tip that works really well, because I'm a little messy with the caulk gun myself, I admit, I end up with a lot more globs than I do the straight lines. So you can actually take painter's tape, the blue tape, and tape off the line that you're going to caulk, and you will get a smooth, clean line. Again, for no money, you guys have all these things in your home already, right?
Cool. Great. All right. Well, what about the rest of the home? I mean, really, we got to think about the other parts of the house. I know kitchens and baths are important, but what else do you have to share? What other tips you've got, Shelley?
Yes, Karen mentioned earlier the first impression rooms, and she talked about that feeling you get when you come into a home, right? And statistically, it has been shown that within 7 seconds, someone has a feeling about that home upon entry. And that can be
7 seconds, folks.
7 seconds, not long, right? Good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or ugly. This is what I call job security in the design and staging world, right? Because we're dedicated to that first impression being stellar and lasting. So to make that happen, it's really important that you look at the first rooms when you enter that home, and it even starts outside, right?
Right.
Because what happens when the lockbox is on and the realtor is going to show that home and they're opening up the house? What's the potential buyer doing?
They're looking
all around. Exactly. So power washing the outside, making sure that the lights have working light bulbs in them and that they're clean. That's one of the first impressions, along with a neat, tidy yard.
And a lot of times when a buyer sees it online, they'll go and do a drive-by before they even go and ask the agent to see it. So
that's a good point. I never think about that.
Yeah. So you want, again, for no money, literally, you can clean that up yourself. A one-person job, again, under an hour. So
very good. All right. What other tips you've got?
Okay, so now we're inside the home, right? And we're looking at the first rooms. And we have a lot of houses in the Charlotte marketplace that you walk in and you're usually looking at living room, dining room type of situation. So take a look at the rooms from an unbiased perspective and look at the light fixture as an example. Is it updated? Are we still looking at the builder brass chandelier that's been in there since you moved in? That you always said you were going to replace,
right? The $30 chandelier that you came free with the house.
Builder grade, and guess what? It's now 15 years later and it's still there.
Right.
So again, going back to your home improvement stores, it's amazing what a chandelier can do. You can get a brushed nickel 6-light chandelier that's lovely, transitional in style, will appeal to the masses for literally under $200 at those stores.
And then you turn it on and are like, wow, this is really nice.
It is.
It's
and
cool.
then you don't want to move.
Then you don't want to move. Right?
No, just kidding.
Get it.
And then on the other side of the room, something really important I know that we look at a lot in Ballantine staging and design, and that is the demographic of the home. So let's say that it's really set up for a millennial buyer and the home is chock full of young children, etc. So now we're looking to the right of the home and the first impression is a living room. But guess what? It's got grandma's couch in it. The upholstery is quite dated, and the millennial really doesn't know what a living room is for. right?
Right.
Because
Right.
they don't have living room furniture. They just don't have it. So what can you do with that room? You can remove that furniture and you could stage it as an office, for example. You can get very expensive desks, for example, at Target for $150.
IKEA.
IKEA
Yes.
is a great resource. We use them quite a bit. And it looks very nice and modern, but not too modern, again, transitional. And it's very easy to set up that room. So that's a cheap and easy.
It's not
and
always
quick
easy to
fix.
set up a IKEA desk, though. Let me just tell you.
Well, that usually is a 4-person job and a bottle of wine, maybe.
Right. Anyway, sorry.
And a small engineer.
Yeah.
But yeah. And also a little tip too, when you go to IKEA or Target, you can buy, it's a little bit more expensive, but you can buy them sometimes put together.
True.
So for me, that helps a lot. So if you don't have that option though, and you're looking at dated upholstery, again, really quick and easy fixes are to buy some beautiful throw pillows, buy a very large throw to put over in a neutral color. And then also there's couch covers. Bed Bath & Beyond is a great location that does a lot of duck cloth or neutral fabrics that will cover grandma's couch with no offense to grandma at the same time.
Perfect. Awesome. Let's see. Is there anything else? I mean, we're doing all this is the cheap and easy stuff. Is there any other important components that we're not hitting here, Shelley, that before we sort of wrap up our segment?
Sure. Just talking about a no-cost solution as well upon that first impression of entering the home is look at your drapery treatments. They may be dated. They may be very heavy and old. It's better sometimes if you don't have the money, just remove them altogether.
Just keep a simple
Just
line.
keep it simple. It's the easiest way to go. And then that way the light comes in. And we always say, right, Karen, light sells. Let that light shine through that house and really showcase how beautiful it is.
Perfect. Well, I think you've delivered on cheap and easy.
Did we do it?
I think you
Did we
delivered.
do
I
it?
don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we're going for big impact and little time or money. And again, the goal is always to help sell that home faster, opening up multiple offer situations. And we know statistically that staged homes not only sell faster, but for more money, 90% faster, in fact, if they're staged first.
Wow. That's 90% faster. That's pretty impressive.
Yep.
So I think today was one of my favorite shows, to be honest with you, because the information that we've been able to sort of bring out with what's going on our market today is so valuable to our listeners and so pertinent to what's happening today. Karen, thank you so much for being on the show. I want to make sure our listeners know that for anyone that is a Reshair listener, Karen is willing to help you out and provide a realtor credit, whether you're going to buy a home or sell a home, upwards of $500 that you can use towards your closing costs when you sell your home and or when you buy a home. So if you're a first-time buyer, $500. If you need a professional full-time realtor, Karen is your girl. My number is 704-277-4463. All you need to do is shoot me a text message and say, I need Karen. Is that right?
That's right.
We need buyers.
And Chris, one other thing.
Sure.
I meant to mention also that some people don't realize that your buyer agent services are free to them.
You're right.
Yes.
And we've mentioned that on other shows, but it doesn't cost anything to work with a buyer's agent. The selling party pays for their commission. So you should not go to court without an attorney, and you should not buy a home without a buyer's agent. Shelley, as always, thank you for being on the show. You are such a huge part of our success, and always like having you here in the studio.
Thank you, Chris. Our pleasure.
Is there, in terms of rolling into the next week, we want to say thank you for listening to Reshair Radio. We are here to help. Again, it's 704-277-4463. If you need any of the services, Ballantyne Staging and Design or Karen from Keller Williams South Park, please let me know, and we will make sure that we connect you with these great resources. As always, have a great week, and we'll see you next week, 10 o'clock for Reshair Radio. Have a great one. Thanks.
Sports fans know that the key to winning the big game is going in prepared. Right now, houses are selling fast. So if you're in the market for a new home purchase, don't just be prepared, be Movement Mortgage prepared. Charlotte's leading mortgage lender, Chris Reshair at Movement Mortgage, will tee you up with a free, fully underwritten upfront pre-approval. Shop for the home of your dreams, already backed by an upfront pre-approval at Movement Mortgage. Call Chris today at 704-277-4463 or find Chris at www.themortgagegenius.com. Go into the game prepared with Chris Reshair of Movement Mortgage.
When choosing an insurance agency, you want a company you can trust. We are an independent insurance agency that can protect your personal assets, including your home, your business assets, as well as health and insurance needs. A true one-stop solution provider. We do not work for an insurance company. We work for you. As an independent insurance agency, our duty is to our clients' best interests. It is our responsibility to provide you the best service and the best coverage at the best possible price. You will have the added benefit of working with agents who understand your needs. After visiting our website, we will schedule an exploratory appointment to discuss your specific needs. Please visit our website at www.movementinsurance.com. That's www.movementinsurance.com.
You've been listening to Reshair with Chris Reshatar, a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with Movement Mortgage, equal housing lender. Originator license number 117266. Learn more online at themortgagegenius.com.